Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Calls, and a special Friday night chill stream. Going to be a two-part stream here. The first, we are going to take a look at some showdown lineups and configurations, do some analysis for round 3 showdown for the FedEx St. Jude Classic going on right now in Memphis, Tennessee. And then part 2, we'll get into me gaming and the comedy of that follows. So let's go ahead and get started with the FedEx St. Jude analysis here. And don't mind me, the setup is a little different than what is generally going on Sunday, Mondays, and Wednesdays. Such is the way I have things set up for Friday night streams and such. Give me one moment as I continue to set up all of my chat settings and all that. So hopefully I will see you all in chat. And that's what I have over here off to the side. And don't mind the music going on in the background. I'd be going a little crazy, stir crazy if I didn't have any sound. So I'm going to have a little music in the background, but we're going to take a look at round 3 showdown for the FedEx St. Jude. So let's start with the weather forecast, and it looks pretty bad, as you can tell, especially for tomorrow morning. Looks like a weather system's coming in overnight and into the morning. We got quite a bit of wind in the morning. This is a no-cut event, so all 70 players are still playing for in the FedEx St. Jude. But the tee times are a little spread out in the sense that they are going off of the first tee. All 70 players will go off the first tee, and they will do so in threesomes. I believe the first 2 groups, Sepp Straka and Wyndham Clark, are going off at 8 local time. Or no, excuse me, 8 Eastern, 7 local time, or 8:10. And then Seamus Power and Ricky Fowler. And then the rest of the day are threesomes. So the final tee time is close to 1 o'clock. But based on this forecast and what we have at Windfinder, it looks like the horrible weather should stop sometime early afternoon. I don't want to say it's a hard, cutoff of 1 o'clock. But generally speaking, it looks like it is going to be really gusty winds in the morning. Might pick up when the rain actually arrives, and then it looks like the wind's going to die off. So the players that are teeing off late actually have the best tee times and the best draw here. Another thing to note, since this is a round 3 showdown, a lot of times you want to look and see who has, the favorable part of the draw and who's teeing off on the good half of the course. But with everybody teeing off on the first hole, there is no, split. Or nobody's going off hole 10 like they have the first 2 days. So we don't have any analysis for that we sometimes do looking for weekend golf. And I'm sure throughout the stream, the second regular will make her presence known. So don't mind her as she is starting to stir and get a little hyper. Anyway, let's take a look at the tee times for tomorrow. And this is based on now where they are sitting in the tournament. So Sepp Straka, Wyndham Clark, +5 and +6 respectively. Seamus Power, Ricky Fowler, both +4. And moving on up the leaderboard, you see Rahm, Neesmith, and Harris English sitting at even par. The other feature group in the morning, Victor Hovland, Hideki, and Sam Stevens. I believe they're sitting at -2, I believe. I could be wrong with that. Where is Victor? There's the second regular, by the way. Victor. Oh, they're at -4. Okay. So pretty bunched up there. And then our leaders will be teeing off, right around lunchtime, local 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Lucas Glover, your leader, at -10. Spieth, -9. Sungjae, -8. So what I have done is, and I'll keep the tee times, I'll keep our forecast up, but what I have done, I've come over to Fantasy National, grabbed a few metrics that I like to look at, especially in tournament, and I've grabbed some in-tournament stats that Fantasy National provides, and this is a great reminder that if you are not a member at Fantasy National, I highly suggest that you go do so. They give you all the tools that you need to be successful in your wagers and in your contests, whether that is for Showdown or week-long contests. But what I've grabbed here, what I like to get a feel for how everybody was playing coming into the tournament, so into the FedEx St. Jude. I've also brought up the course breakdown in case we want to look at that. The leaderboard, so a few of the stats, in tournament stats, you can see Ben On leading in off the tee this week. Then I've also brought up last year's FedEx St. Jude playoff event in case we want to take a look and see how a specific individual performed in the playoff event last year. And off to the side, I have the early look file that I create and created. Sorry, as I'm trying to fumble with it. This file here, I'll have that off to the side as we will be looking at a few stats for the St. Jude for when the St. Jude was a WGC. So with that, let me bring you to the file that I have for you all this evening. And you can see I've got this sorted on the score, salary, performance in the wind, especially since it looks like everybody's going to deal with wind at some point in their round tomorrow. What their performance has been this week at the St. Jude, their base performance at those particular stats, strokes gained specifically. And one of the biggest things I like to look at is their difference in putting. And this is using the Fast and Bermuda filters from Fantasy National coming into this week, since every single round at TPC Southwind has been listed as fast speeds, and we're on Bermuda greens. So with that, let's start going through here. And one of the first things that we'll note, especially with this horrendous looking tee time, sorry, that's the leaderboard. I don't need that up anymore, I don't believe. One of the first things that we can note is that we really want to avoid as many of the early players as possible. Now, yes, the worst of it is, say 10, 11, and noon as of right now, but everybody is going to be dealing with these strong, gusty winds as of right now. Even the ones that are teeing off at 7 a.m. while the winds generally are calm, it looks like it will be gusty as that storm starts to move in. I want to avoid as many of these players as I can. So really, as much as it sounds obvious, we're going to just kind of try to fit in as many of these late tee times as we can based on that forecast. Now, I have brought in the wind performance for these players in case we want to take a gander at some players. For example, Tony Finau, who had a pretty solid first day and really backed up today. He is the number one strokes gained total performer in the wind coming into this week's FedEx St. Jude. You see he has really overperformed his irons. His base, he has not been in very good form in terms of ball striking, 36th and 41st. He's actually 7th best in irons. He's just not putting. And he's also not doing very well around the green. So even though he is still ball striking it great, he is still where you would think he would be for putting. So I'm not sure if I like Finau, but the reason we are starting off down here just to see if there's anybody that really stands out in terms of really striking their irons well and is generally a good putter and just hasn't been putting well. I don't see too much of that. Denny McCarthy, his irons have been pretty good this week. He's been really bad off the tee. Now you see he is drastically underperforming his baseline putting. He's generally the best fast Bermuda putter in this field. With that, I'm not sure I am comfortable using Denny McCarthy. I'll put him in the lightest of light shaded green, I think, because he's generally not very good in the wind, and he's going to have one of the earlier tee times. But the fact that he has been hitting his irons okay, and he's not putt well at all. I don't believe he played in the WGC St. Jude's. He did not. But what we can do, we can take a gander and see what he did last year on these greens. He gained, so generally that's what Denny McCarthy does, so I don't want to take too much or put too much emphasis into that. But that wind performance, or at least his baseline wind performance, really does give me quite a bit of pause. Somebody like Matt Kuchar, even though he's good in the wind, he has not played well this week. And yes, while he has underperformed with his putter, like even the ball striking isn't there this week. Harris English might be interesting, considering the irons are still are there this week, and he's generally a pretty good putter on Bermuda. He was not a 125 member last year, and he did not play the WGC St. Jude, which is a little surprising. But let's check Harris English. This might be one of the few players, I said two, one of the few players I might not mind venturing to. That's what I thought. He was in the 2021 St. Jude. Did I just overlooking? Oh, yeah, because he's up near the top. He finished 4th. So it was a very, very strong performance in 2021. You see, he really, really enjoys generally these fast Bermuda greens. Now, 2018 and on back was played at Firestone. Oh, excuse me, 2018 was a full event. That's why it's not in my spreadsheet. It was a full event. But it was at TPC Southwind, fast Bermuda greens. But if we go to this tournament history, starting in... Okay, so I guess it was the WGC Bridgestone that was at Firestone. One of those two have been at Firestone. But you see these greens, they've been fast for the majority of the time at TPC Southwind. Generally a difficult test of golf. I think Harris English is underperforming generally what he should be. And you see the performance here. Fourth 2 years ago in the WGC St. Jude. He's had a top 10. He won way back in 2013. So he's generally played this course fairly well. Harris English is probably somebody that I would want to perhaps target, especially if we're trying to get a whole lot of the expensive players in here. The Spieths, the Fleetwoods, the Schefflers, maybe even the Rorys. So English, I don't hate. Nobody else is really ball striking it all that well that would make me take consideration. Like, yes, Sam Burns, Matt Fitzpatrick, they're drastically underperforming their putting, but even so, it's not like the ball striking has been there. You see, Seamus Power is last so far this week in approach. So, not terribly confident in any of these players. Not really all that strong about Finau. The ball striking's been there, but he's generally pretty good around the green. Yeah, I don't know. The ball striking is there, but he's generally not a good putter. Finau at the WGC St. Jude, he's not played it particularly well. All 3 years from 2019, 2020, and 2021, he averaged a 42nd place finish in the WGCs. It's not very good considering those are, very small fields. 65 to 75 players. Not the strongest. He did finish 5th in the playoff event last year, but that was a different format. 125 full players. And then there's your performance when it was a WGC. He did top 10 when it was a regular event. I am not. Yeah, again, I guess it's in the lightest shade of green. Really, Harris English does kind of stand out. I would not worry too much about his performance in the wind. This is taken quite a bit from when he was still injured. So I'll put him in a little bit of a darker shade of green. As we move up the leaderboard here, like Rahm has been a disaster off the tee. You wouldn't expect him to be this bad. But if the driver is that bad this week, the irons still aren't there for the week. This just doesn't seem like it's Jon Rahm's week. He's really struggling. Really struggling. Let's see. Anyone else down here that stands out? Terrell Hatton. Okay, so perhaps we can take a look at Terrell Hatton. He seems like he is drastically underperforming all of his metrics, considering the ball striking is still there. He's been worse off the tee this week than what he normally is. But even so, I mean, he is 57 spots worse than putting, than his baseline. So Jarrell Hatton looks like somebody that should improve over the next 2 days. Let's see. Ryder, his irons have been there. Okay, but he generally doesn't play great in the wind. He's been pretty much right where he should have been, except for the putting. So I guess I'll put him in the lightest shade of green again, like Finau and McCarthy. It could be interesting, especially at 6,100, because the irons have been pretty good. The off the tee hasn't. But even so, he's not an off the tee base player. The around the green's been, fairly close to his baseline. He's just drastically underperformed his putting. So Ryder seems like he could be interesting. Again, Keith, like I talked about this throughout the week, Keith Mitchell's irons have just been really bad. And that's not changing. Yeah, he's underperforming his putter, but still, I don't know. I don't have a great feeling on Keith Mitchell. Once you get up into this range here, this is where you're gonna separate yourself from your other contestants, the guys that are really gonna go low tomorrow. And that's why I really want to look at these strong wind performers. Who has been playing well, generally plays well in the wind, but is underperforming their putter drastically. Maybe the irons aren't as good. Like Cameron Young, generally pretty good in the wind, but he's right in line with his off the tee. He's been better this week with the irons. Probably not. I didn't want anything of Keegan Bradley, and it looks like that's paying off well for me, even though the irons have been much better. He's generally best on bent. Chris Kirk's ball striking has been a lot better this week so far. This doesn't look like he's gotten anything out of it. Chris Kirk could be interesting here. I want to take a look at Chris Kirk. Let's go to the Fantasy National Round of Par in tournament stats. My guess is Chris Kirk's going to be at the bottom at a lot of these. So he's gained a lot of pars. So he's just not getting anything out of his rounds. Tee to green, Chris Kirk. He's number 1 in greens in regulation gained. I don't see much here that is. He just doesn't seem like he's getting anything out of his rounds, even though he's not playing all that bad. If we separate out each of his days, round 1 alone, Kirk was decent, actually pretty good. And in round 2, he was very good with the greens. Didn't scramble. He was only 1 for 3 scrambling today. Okay, yeah, I kind of like what I'm seeing here from Chris Kirk. So Kirk is somebody else that I would be targeting, and then looking at his past history. Doesn't look like he played the WGC St. Jude's. Did he play? So he did miss the cut in the playoff event. He does have a top 10 when it was a full event on the PGA Tour. Generally decent on Bermuda, or at least field average. I don't know. Kind of like what I see here. Moving on up. So Brennan Todd. He's not been as good around the green, but the irons have been very good this week. He hasn't putt well at all. Could be another scenario here, but the reason why he's going to be in a lighter shade of green instead of, this darker one like Kirk, he's just not good in the wind. And he's going to have, at least based on the forecast, he's going to have probably one of the rougher ones. In terms of he's going to seem like he's going to tee off right when it's starting to hit. Let's see. Interesting to see Matsuyama is the number one around the green player. But as you would expect, he's not putting well. He didn't putt well when it was at WGC. Losing on average 1 stroke per tournament or per year. Irons aren't as strong. He's not ball striking it as strong. So I'm not there with Matsuyama. Eric Cole. Quite a bit fewer rounds. Dietrich, he's hitting it well off the tee. Norman, not very good in the wind. That gives you a lot of cause for concern. Moving up, Hovland. He's been bad off the tee compared to his baseline. Drastically overperforming his putter. Don't like that. Anything in these three who are drastically underperforming? Shanks, Vincent, Cantley. So Cantley, the irons actually, he's not ball striking it like he normally does. He's just been good around the green. Okay. But generally a much better putter. But again, I normally think of him on bent as opposed to Bermuda. So I don't think I'm there with Cantley. Svensson, ball striking it a whole lot better than what he normally does. He's just not getting anything out of his rounds because of his putter, it looks like. Because he's actually been very, very good this week. If we take a look at Svensson, let's go round to par. He's probably gaining a whole. So he's actually losing some in the bogeys. Tee to green. So he's 2 for 2 with sand sage, but he's been scrambling very, very well. 13 of 15. He generally doesn't. Greens, not good at all this week. Interesting. Svensson. Finished 51st last year. He lost quite a bit, so I mean, we could be looking at he just doesn't like these greens. It's certainly possible. Because he's been pretty bad this week on the greens. Shank's been okay. But again, not very good in the wind. Generally a decent putter, though. That one's kind of interesting. Been on, very bad in the wind. The irons are pretty much baseline. The off the tees pretty much baseline. Around the greens, baseline. It's just kind of underperforming the putter. Maybe been on. Andrew Putnam's been the number one putter this week, but he's generally one of the best on fast Bermuda greens, so that's nothing out of the ordinary. Putnam's just kind of been right at his baseline. He's bad off the tee, but the irons are right in line. He's overperforming his around the green a little bit. Siwoo's doing Siwoo things, pretty good off the tee. Exactly the same with the irons. So I don't see a lot of improvement there, considering the putter has been fairly solid. I do see a lot of regression from Kitayama, considering the ball striking has not been good this week at all. He's been saving himself with the putter, and he's generally not a very good putter on fast Bermuda greens. Morikawa, just doing Morikawa things, but he's overperforming the putter. I figured he was going to have a good week this week, considering the emphasis I had on accuracy. Morikawa, when this was a WGC, average finisher 23rd. Okay, it's not great, but not terrible. Homa had a very, very good day today. He's been excellent off the tee, and he's generally hasn't been lately, but he's good in the wind. Right in line, basically, with the putter. Playing well, all in today's round, essentially. Let's see. Yeah, Aaron Rai doing Aaron Rai thing, except overperforming drastically with the putter. You would expect some regression to come there. Having said that, Aaron Rai has been pretty darn solid at this course. When it was a WGC, he averaged a top 20 finish. The putter has been fairly hot lately. So, that's because I had the period. I'm sorry. So, 51st last year, so he made the cut. Nothing outstanding. But a 26th and a 12th when it was a WGC. Decent. Don't hate it, don't love it. Yeah, I should probably take away the orange. Like I said, don't hate it, don't love it. Now we start getting into what I think is going to be the premier portion, and where we're trying to get a whole lot of our lineups. Especially since they have the best part of the forecast, seemingly. Rory's overperformed. So really, look at Sungjae. And I've been talking about Sungjae for quite a while. It's only a matter of time before he gets right. I did not know if this was going to be the right spot. I really thought it was going to be perhaps the Wyndham, because he really likes Don Ross designs. But he's the number 2 player in the wind of these 70. He's been ball striking it great, which he hadn't been coming into this week. And he's generally very good on fast Bermuda greens. He's generally the 13th best of these 70 on fast Bermuda greens. That's actually holding him back. He's 42nd this week, right at field average. When it was a WGC, he did gain 1.7 per tournament. So normally he likes these greens. I think Sungjae is probably full go. You would have to expect some positive regression from Sungjae based on what I'm seeing here. Taylor Moore. He's right in line with the putter, but you could be just riding the hot hand here with his irons being good this week. Off the tee, I'm a little concerned with the wind, but third. Awaken, good evening. Sorry, I just now saw that since I have a different setup here for Friday nights. Day has been my worst play. What's his deal? Day, where is J Day? I gotta admit, I was off of J Day coming into the week. Let's see. Here's my rankings. I know it's really small font. Yeah, J Day was 44th, so I mean literally right in the middle, or actually on the bottom half of my rankings. He's been very good off the tee this week, but he's generally pretty good. I mean, he's really good around the green, and he's not been. I was worried with the irons. His irons have not been very, very good lately, and that's continuing right now. Hopefully your lineups are going well. Didn't see you Wednesday evening, but how are those going? Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Like I said, with a different little setup here on a Friday evening, chat is on the other screen. But yeah, J-Day, I mean, he averaged a 23rd place finish when it was a WGC, but he had never putt well here. Something about this course, he likes off the tee. Rory, Day, Sungjae, who I think Sungjae is going to be pretty darn solid. I would expect some positive regression for Sungjae, considering he's generally pretty good on fast Bermuda, and he's been top 15 everything else. I would be excited for Sungjae. Glover's been good. Cam Davis has been very, very good. And I'm pretty excited about that since he is the only win wager I put in this week. And Aaron Rye, yeah. Rory, where is Rory? He's -7, right? Just doing Rory things, you know. He's been really bad around the green. Generally, he's okay, but he's overperforming the putter slightly. But I really do like Sungjae. I think Taylor Moore will be pretty good for a showdown lineup this weekend. I gotta believe in Grillo as well. I think Grillo's going to be pretty darn solid. Very good in the wind, which people forget he won in Korea earlier this year. Sungjae? what? If it wasn't part of the PGA Tour, then I wouldn't know it. So, because I stick to just PGA Tour. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just not following what tournament that was. But if you haven't seen this forecast, if you are going to be playing Showdown, this forecast looks hideous. They are scheduled to tee off starting at 7:10 local, 8:10 Eastern. And this, it looks like everybody's going to be dealing with wind. After that, he really fell off. Yeah. It's not looking good. However, after this gets through, the afternoon looks amazing. And it actually doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of rain. I mean, famous last words. But all I can go is by the forecast. So when this wind gets through, it looks like the leaders actually have the best conditions tomorrow. So I'm going to try and fit as many of these, guys that are playing well already into my lineups. Grillo hasn't been drastically overperforming the putter. These others have. I was high on Spieth this week, so I mean I'm happy to see that, but I am concerned considering he's been really bad with the irons. He's been putting very, very well. I could perhaps. Wyndham Clark woke up on the wrong side. I don't think he even arrived at the right course, to be honest with you. It was bad for Wyndham Clark today. I do have some concerns with Spieth, considering the irons have not been good this week. He's been saving himself, a la Jordan Spieth, all in the short game. You see 3rd around the green, 8th in putting. Now, as much as I would generally caution all of these guys since they're overperforming, look, Lucas Glover has a new putter. It's that broomstick putter. It's all the craze, and he's performed extremely well with it. So until he shows that he's not putting well with it, I have to believe in at least him being average. He's actually been pretty good this week with the putter. I don't see any reason not to continue with the Lucas Glover love. Tom Kim's doing Tom Kim things. The irons generally pretty good. He's been really bad off the tee, but he's generally not this good of a short game player. So if I were to build a lineup right now, I mean, all of these guys, I mean, the highest that I've even highlighted is Hatton, and he doesn't have a good tee time. He's just been underperforming everything. Like, you can go wherever you really want to, really, because I think the core is Sungjae. I really, really like Grillo. I don't see any reason why Glover won't continue his solid play. I mean, with that 3 core, you're averaging 9,000 per player, and there have been a couple of cheaper options down here, like Chris Kirk. Chris Kirk's been very good this week. He's the second to worst putter this week so far. He's generally good in the wind. He's not the best on fast Bermuda, sure, but he's still underperforming. He's just not gotten anything out of his rounds, considering he's been top 10 with the irons, top 25 off the tee. I think Chris Kirk should be pretty darn solid for positive regression. This is leaving you 10,000, 10-2 per player. I don't see anything wrong with Rory if you want to double up on your single entry or week long lineups with your showdowns. Hatton only hit 59 last week, so I'm not surprised to see him struggle again. Maybe, but everything has shown that he's actually been fairly solid. Coming into the week, he was 12th off the tees, top 35% or so in the field. And we can check and see exactly where he is in terms of fairways and stuff. Hatton, he's still struggling to hit fairways. 16 of 28 so far. It's been scrambling okay. But the biggest draw to Hatton, he's been the 4th worst putter this week, and his baseline performance on fast Bermuda greens is top 10 in this field. So the one bad thing with Tyrrell Hatton is that he has, an awful tee time tomorrow. Hatton 9:45. And if we look at the forecast, he's going to be playing the majority of his round in this shit. And that's why I brought in the wind, where they place wind-wise. He's not spectacular, but it's not a disaster either. I don't think Hatton would be bad at all. Dietrich has been solid. You are correct. Where does he sit right now? -4. Did he fall back today? Because I felt like he was -4 on Thursday. Dietrich really overperforming the driving. His baseline coming in, deep red. He's in solid green. The irons have been a little better. So, he is ball striking it a lot better this week. He's actually just ball striking. He's actually doing everything a little bit better except for the putter. I think that's a pretty good suggestion there. Not terrible in the wind either. The difference between him and Chris Kirk, for example, considering they're $200 apart, I'll highlight the two rows. While Dietrich is overperforming, or he's better this week with the irons than he normally is, it's still not good. It's still not great because he was one of the worst iron players of these 70 coming in, whereas Chris Kirk has been top 10 in the irons this week, and he's better in the wind. Dietrich -6. So did he fall apart? I guess it was Thursday that he fell apart because I felt like he started off hot yesterday. Maybe it was today that he started off extremely hot. What did he do yesterday? So this is round 2. He teed off on the front, so he would have started on the back yesterday. Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought. I thought I remembered him getting off to a hot start. Yeah. Things are starting to run together now, I guess. But I don't hate that. I don't hate that mention at all. I don't think it's realistic to expect another -6 bogey free round out of him. But considering he is much better off the tee this week, he's been just generally ball striking it better. You could see some positive regression in that putter. I do worry that the irons haven't been as good, though, than some of these others. Like Brendan Todd, for example, $100 more. He's been 5th in irons. Again, Brendan Todd been very bad off the tee, but he's generally not good off the tee anyway. Brendan Todd is a fantastic putter. He's been bad this week with the putter. You would expect, at least in a one round sample size, trying to hit a showdown winner, you got to expect that positive regression on that putter. So we go Chris Kirk, and then I mentioned Fleetwood looks due for a win. He might be. He's been playing extremely well lately. He has been a little worse than his baseline coming in on everything else. But he is overperforming the putter on Fast Bermuda. Tommy Fleetwood, when it was a WGC, so it's not including last year, but not 2019, 2020, and 2021. He did average a top 30 finish. Isn't great, but it's not terrible. And he was field average with the putter. Okay, I could get there. I mean, he fits exactly in that lineup. So, these 3 spots are pretty maneuverable. But this right here looks to be a pretty darn solid part of a core that I would be going to for my round 3 showdown tomorrow, based on the forecast and based on, these tee times that these guys are going to have. They look like they're going to have the best part. So will Tommy. Is the shocked to see Fowler struggle this bad? I'm going to be honest. His round was happening when I was playing golf myself, so I didn't see any part of his round. I figured Ricky would play well this week. I did avoid him in DFS because I knew he was going to be pretty popular, which is fortunate. Is the text big enough to see, or do I need to zoom in more? But I do. Let's check Fowler. Ricky +4. He's been pretty bad this week. No denying that. Text is fine. Thanks. Fowler. He only played the WGC once. He played it well. I mean, he's been on such a heater. Guys are going to have off tournaments. I'm not terribly worried about it, but it just doesn't look like it's his week. Just doesn't look like it's his week. Rounding out some of these other styles of lineups for Showdown tomorrow. Again, I know he's not putting well, but I mean, he's actually not been terrible this week. He is overperforming a little bit, but like Scotty Scheffler is not the 45th worst or 45th best iron player in this field. Sorry, he's not. You would have to think the irons are going to get better. I would much prefer Scheffler over a Jon Rahm, considering Rahm has no idea where his driver's going right now. He's put 2 in the drink on 18 alone. Even the irons they haven't been as good as you would expect Jon Rahm's to be this week. I just don't think it's Jon Rahm's week. So I much prefer Scheffler moving forward, even with the seeming regression of the putter. But I'd have to think the irons are going to get better as well. And he's still been immaculate off the tee. I'm looking, Scheffler. And I there's enough here. Like, I don't mind going all the way down to a Sung Jae. I'm trying to use different names, but I mean, I'm just seeing this core here of like Sung Jae, Grillo, Glover. Taylor Moore looks like he should, be pretty good considering his ball striking has been light years better than what he was coming in, and he's putting at this same exact rate that he was. Taylor Moore could be somebody. In fact, like there's a legitimate stars and scrubs showdown lineup here. We can go. You mentioned Dietrich. I'll throw Taylor Moore into this. We can go Scheffler. 83 per. We can go Scheffler. Sungjae might have to go here. You probably should expect some positive regression on the putter from McCarthy, but he's just not very good in the wind. I do like Terrell Hatton for positive regression. 77. Glover, Grillo, JT Poston we didn't really look at. His irons are a lot better this week. Yeah, maybe. Cam Davis, leaving quite a bit on the table here. We can move some of this around. Maybe Thomas Detry is our bottom at 73. 72 is Jaeger. Jaeger hadn't been playing bad. Of course, he's just been generally solid coming in anyway. Jaeger might be an option, although I do worry about his wind performance. Tagala, his irons have been right where they're expected to be. Maybe Sahith Tagala. Don't hate it, don't love it. I mentioned Vincent earlier, Brendan Todd. I'll throw in McCarthy just because it's the right price point. Not in love with the McCarthy play, but there's a look at a lineup perhaps with Scheffler. I do want to build a couple more showdown lineups, and then I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break, stop the stream, and then set it up for the gaming portion. But I do want to make a few more lineups here. I don't hate Tommy Fleetwood, but I don't know. Like, I would think Tom Kim would be a good candidate for negative regression based on the fact that he is very overperforming his putter. Same kind of with Spieth, although he's underperforming his irons. I don't think Spieth is this good on Bermuda. But that was one of the reasons why I was high on Spieth, is that I wasn't worried about his putting, considering how tough this course is going to be, I really like Spieth, and I like the fact that he was the most unique 9K play. That's worked out well for me so far. I just don't have a good grasp on Xander. He hadn't done much. He's been worse with the ball striking, and he's overperforming his putter. That's generally not a good combination. I would expect Aaron Rai to come back down to earth. Although, we talked about Aaron Rai a little bit earlier, he's played this course well, so there's something about this course that he just really likes, apparently. Because he averaged a top 20 finish when it was a WGC. 12th and a 26th. Feel free to jump in chat if you have a particular player that you want to look at. Let's see how much you have to sacrifice if you want to get both of the bigger guns. And oh my gosh, you have 67 per player. Ugh, that's bad. I mean, you can do it, absolutely. Like I mentioned, Sam Ryder, who was actually the player that I was mentioning Wednesday night for your week-long contests. But, you know, the irons have been pretty good. He's just drastically underperformed his putter. He's not good in the wind. That gives you some pause, certainly. But, you know, for a showdown, you can go Sam Ryder. Again, I like Chris Kirk. Brendan Todd should be much better. I do like Brendan Todd quite a bit. I was going to see if I can't. I mean, triple 6K seems very, very dangerous. But, I mean, that's kind of where we are here. 71 is Cam Davis. I mean, honestly, I don't hate this lineup. I can guarantee you're going to be real unique in a showdown contest with this. If you go Scotty and Rory and go three 6Ks, taking a little bit of a chance there only because of these tee times being pretty darn bad. But if they get through, I mean, if you can get through that, you would expect Scheffler and Rory to really play well tomorrow. But it's really, really hard for me not to use a Sungjae based on what I'm seeing here. The number 2 player in the wind, top 10 in both ball striking categories or for the week, and drastically underperforming his putter. That's just like the dream for a showdown. So I think, unless you think Sungjae is going to be way too popular, which I don't, but I'm not an aficionado of showdown content. So, you know, and I don't have any projected ownerships. Unless you think he's too popular, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't use Sungjae. Scheffler is just, his price is so darn prohibitive. Hadwin's been really good, but he's generally not the best on Bermuda. Like I said, Cam Davis has been solid. Stefan Jaeger has been just solid as well. I do worry about his lack of performance in the wind, but he's been solid. Homa had a huge day today as well. He's been drastically overperforming off the tee. Other than that, I mean, maybe max. Like if you wanted to build a balanced lineup, you could go. Oh, let's see. If we bottomed out at Jaeger, just to use different names here, we go Jaeger, Grillo, Glover. You know, you could also throw Cam Davis in this, but we've used him a couple times, and I'm just in the interest of using different names. This would absolutely be Sung Jae. But again, I'll try to use different names. You've got, you know, you mentioned Tommy, who you're fairly high on. I just don't have strong feelings on a lot of these guys. Like Henley's my most common player in my week-long contests. He's been solid, but the irons have been nowhere near what he normally is. He's, middling in terms of wind performance. Maybe like if you wanted to go Henley 10-8, don't think that's quite enough for Rory. It's not. So you could actually come off a couple of these guys and jump into the 8s. Like I said, for a Terrell Hatton, Tommy's at 92. Maybe you like Tom Kim and believe that the putter is going to stay hot. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have a strong feeling with Homa this week, but I could be wrong. Because I'll show you where my lineups are at the moment. So I generate several lineups a week. But any of them in blue, all the way over here to the right, is the lineups that I used. And you see, of the lineups that I generated, I've got one that's at 311 right now. I don't know what you mentioned your single entry. So you have Day, Sungjae, and Rory. Yeah, okay. Rory, Day, Sungjae, Glover, Davis, and Rye. Where are they in points? There's Rory at 53. Sungjae's at 64 and a half. So I'm just trying to do a quick comparison off of what you've got going. 80, J-Day, and Rye. I can't believe Aaron Rye wasn't more popular than what he was. But such is. So you've got a 324. That's strong. that's real strong. I would have to imagine you are pretty high up in that single entry contest, because this 311 is top 200 in a big GPP right now. The best lineup, and I decided, not to use it, I'd be at 330 and a half. But I'm using my 3rd right now, my 7th, my 10th, I think, was up there, 13th. So 10th. So I've picked, for the most part, the right lineups to use of these. There's the lineup that I generated that would have 330.5 right now, which surprisingly has Finau in it, who has not been good. It just happens to have Glover, Spieth, and Kim, who are the last. That's the last threesome tomorrow. Very quickly, we'll jump over to DraftKings here. Take a look at some 3-ball wagers. See if we like anything here. Matchups. Round 3 balls. So Spieth, Sungjae, and Glover. The final group tomorrow. Again, with as high as I am on Sungjae, I'd have to imagine Sungjae is probably going to shoot the lowest round of those 3. Grillo and Taylor Moore I both like. I don't know if I like them at those odds, though. Rory and Scheffler in the same group. That'd be a tough one to pick there. I tell you what, Cam Davis at plus 240 against Xander and Homa. I am not a believer in Xander at all. 240 seems like a pretty darn fair price on that 3-ball tomorrow for Cam Davis. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Hatton, that's big favorite. Sam Ryder at 195, not terrible, I suppose. Oh, Chris Kirk at 210. Oh yeah, I would hammer this absolutely. Chris Kirk at 210 against Mitchell and Bradley, who I want absolutely no part of. Mitchell's irons have been just as bad as they were coming in. Keegan he just doesn't putt Bermuda well at all. His ball striking's been a little bit better this week, but give me Chris Kirk in that one. Oh yeah, I kind of like that one. Is this a different take on the 3 balls? Looks like it. Just a version, yeah. So it's just individual matchups versus, against all 3 in the 3 ball. Yeah, I kind of just give me the round 3 ball. I think I would have to think Chris Kirk at 210 is pretty good. Cam Davis at 240. Oh yeah. If you go, Keegan is only good in the Northeast. Seemingly, he's just good on bent, and bent is there's some bent in the Northeast, bent in the Midwest. Like that little parlay there is almost 10-1, and I'm pretty darn confident on both of those. Not sure if I'm gonna wager that, but man, I'm pretty darn confident in both of those. Let's see, what else is there? I was really high on Alex Smalley coming into this week. He has not played well at all. Burns is an overwhelming favorite in that one. Hubbard versus Fitzpatrick. Holy smokes, look at this. John Rahm is minus on English and Neesmith. If you had any confidence in Harris English, that's probably decent value. But I don't know. I mean, Rahm's so pissed off he might just go out and shoot 61 tomorrow. Because he's mad. I'm surprised that Harmon's not playing a lot better. I was really high on Brian Harmon coming in. Only at -1. Well, that's what I have for in terms of round 3 showdown or round 4. That's why I generally like doing weekend golf, but I don't think there's any point in doing weekend golf since this is a no-cut event, so I decided just to look at round 3 showdown. I'll stick around for a couple minutes for any other questions that the people might have in terms of showdown lineups or looking at particular players. I just brought up DraftKings, looking up odds, and then I'm gonna take a couple minutes, minute break there after the St. Jude portion. I'm going to get into some gaming. It's been a long 2 to 3 weeks. I'm looking forward to kicking back with some music and relaxing and playing some games. And also be refilling my water bottle. But I don't want to cut short any time if anybody has any questions. So in terms of showdown, I'm looking at a core of basically Glover, Griot, Sungjae, absolutely. Fill in around it. Whether if you want to go to a shuffler, I don't know what else you're going to be able to fit in there with him. You're going to be right around those same price of guys. Whoever you like, it's 7,500. I think Young can bounce back. I took a look at him early. It's tough. He is good in the wind. He's right on par with his off the tee. He's also pretty much on par with his putting. The irons have been better. I just did not believe in Cam Young coming into this. Let's take a look at a few things here regarding Cam Young in tournament. Okay, so the forecast hadn't updated. Figured I'd check. Cam Young. So, struggling a little bit with the fairways. He's always going to have the distance. Mediocre in terms of greens and scrambling. He's gained a lot of pars. He just hadn't gotten any. He hadn't gained a lot of birdies. He has avoided the bogeys. I don't know. I mean, it is encouraging to see him be a little bit better with the irons in these first 2 days than what he was, in his last 24 coming in. I wasn't very high on Cam Young. So unless he was drastically, either underperforming the putter, which would be really hard to do considering he was one of the worst already on Bermuda, he would have had to have been, he would have to shown a whole lot with the irons, and he hasn't yet this week. I wouldn't go there, but he's not as bad as some of these other people we've looked at, like Kitayama. I wouldn't want any part of. The ball striking isn't there at all this week, and he's been drastically overperforming his putter, as you can see. Like, I would want no part of Kitayama. Xander, much the same. So, he's not in that category. but I'm not there. Like, let's see, compared to Hideki, who's around the same price ish, comparable in terms of win performance. The off the tee, the ball striking, you probably give a slight favor to Cam Young, although I much prefer the irons versus off the tee, so I consider that basically a wash. Hideki is not the number one around the green player, so he's drastically overperforming that. But surprisingly, Hideki actually isn't all that bad on Bermuda. So, between these two, I'd almost go Hideki, banking on the positive regression of the putter and the preference of the irons. But it's close. It's real close between those two in my eyes. Like Cam Young and Harmon, 83 and 81. Harmon's been putting the daylights out by Harmon's standards. I would probably prefer Cam Young to Harmon. Harmon's just been bad this week. The irons have been crap. He's slightly better with the off the tee, but it's not great. He's never a very good around the green player. So I would prefer Cam Young to Brian Harmon. But that's why I wasn't in the 8K. That's why I wasn't building a whole lot of the balanced lineups for the round 3 showdown. I'm seeing, the sevens, Sungjae, Glover Grillo, Cam Davis at 71, Jaeger at 72 is fine. And then, just trying to get a Scotty or a Rory in there. You see what you have to do to try to get both in there. It's just, I don't know if I could, if I only were playing one showdown lineup, I don't think I have the stones to throw that lineup in. But if I were playing multiple lineups, I think I would give this one a shot. But I would much prefer something akin to like Rory. You mentioned Tommy. I'd probably go somewhere else. And then those three in a 6K that I liked. More something along these lines. Because I'm higher on Scheffler than Rory. I just don't have a good feeling on Cam Young. With that, I'm going to take a quick gander. We'll see if Olympia Fields is out. It is. So this will clearly be a review by the time we come Sunday evening, but a very long par 70. Small-ish greens. Looking at Benton Poa Annua. Interesting. Okay. I know this was played for a major, relatively recently, but I was not big into golf when it was played at Olympia Fields, so this is new for me. And longtime supporter of the channel is very local to here and is I think going to Olympia Fields next week. So we'll have to pick his brain next week before he leaves for the BMW. But that is what I have for you all in terms of some showdown lineups and thoughts for round 3 or round 4. FedEx St. Jude showdown contests. Thanks, Awaken, for jumping into chat. Much appreciated. I will be back here, 2 to 5 minutes but it's going to be all gaming. So if that is not your cup of tea, I understand. But thanks for jumping in chat. It was good to catch up with you. Good luck with your contest this week. Let me know how they go. And thanks to everyone else out there who tuned in, watched, listened, supports the channel. Again, I'll be back here in about 2 to 5 minutes. I am going to shut down the stream and re-bring it up under a new title and some different tags and whatnot. But as always, thanks for the support. Let me know how your contests do. And for the rest of this weekend, may all your bets be profitable.